Okay, planning commissioners, please turn on your green light on your speakers. You got them? Okay, all right, real good. Folks, if you haven't turned off your cell phones yet, please do that for us. Thank you. And if you, once again, if any of you are going to want to speak today to the Planning Commission, please pick up one of the little slips in the back, fill it out, and bring it up to me at some point. Okay? Thank you. Meeting is called to order. Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sean has asked that the planning commissioners remove your masks since we're pretty good distance apart so they can hear us when they're recording for doing the minutes, okay? All right. Okay, let's see. Can I get an approval of the agenda for today?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Gardner?
I will second.
I think we had a second already. I'm looking for an aye or a...
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Okay. Aye. Oh, I forgot John was down there. Thanks, John. All right. Okay, approval of minutes from last month. The only thing I saw on the minutes, and I can't seem to pull it up right now here, but it's on the very first page. On the minutes, it should have been it said 0.05 acres on whichever item that was there. It should have been 0.5. It was half acre. Okay, Alicia? All right, thank you. All right. Now, no unfinished business, I see. We'll move into new business. And item A, SRU 20007, Desert Concrete Pumping. Dr. Bellantoni, come on up.
Do we need a motion?
I'm sorry?
Do we need a motion for the minutes?
Don't we have to approve the?
Did I not do that? I'm sorry. Okay, very good. I'm sorry. Yes, I need a motion for the minutes.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, Larry. All right. Gardner?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for catching that. Okay, we're still learning our tablets here. I don't have an agenda in front of me. I can't pull it up right now, but we'll go on. Okay. All right, Dr. Bellantoni, come on up again.
Did I do that right? Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am here today on behalf of Desert Concrete Pumping. And you know me, and I would like to introduce to you Nevin Stoltzfus. He is the owner and the applicant, and Nate Nell is the office manager.
Okay.
So Mr. Stoltzfus, he purchased a property in Penrose on 10th Street, 4.649 acres, and there it is. He purchased it last October, and he would like to make that into a contractor's yard. He operates concrete pump trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So he services Fremont, Canon, Salida, and Pueblo. Specifically, he has one truck that goes to Salida that pretty much stays there, another one that's in Pueblo. So this yard will be the home of the remaining three. They will be parked and kept on site when not in use. So the way this works is that when the drivers come in the morning before a job, they will come in their private vehicle, get their truck, drive out in the truck, go do their business, come back, park the truck,
Mm-hmm.
leave in their private vehicle. The site, you can see, is that building number 3 is a metal shop building. It'll have insulated walls to mitigate noise to neighbors from the trucks. It'll have a concrete floor, and you can see a concrete apron around the outside, and the ADA parking spot will be on that concrete pad. Purpose of the metal building will be for repairs and maintenance of the trucks as needed, and they will also be able to park the pump trucks in there. We're going to talk about parking in a little bit. Utilities, there is a on-site water treatment system, and that plan was submitted to the county. There is already a Penrose water tap on site. They will have motion sensor lights on the buildings on the outside. They will construct the perimeter fence as required, making it opaque. And then building number 4 is a proposed watchman's quarters, 2,000 square foot watchman's quarters in the front. The change to the application, and I sincerely apologize, is there was thought that they would not have that many fluids, but in realistic, when they started looking at what they actually do with their trucks, they will have on the outside, inside the fence, they will have a 500-gallon diesel fuel tank on the support with the secondary containment at the bottom. Typically, vehicle oils and fluids will be delivered to the site in 55-gallon drums. They will be stored inside the maintenance shop in secondary containment. They typically have 1 to 2 55-gallon drums there at a time. Any spent fluids are also collected in 55-gallon drums, and then those spent fluids are recycled. There will be a 5-gallon container of gasoline for weed eaters, and there will be a 250-gallon tote, the poly totes that you see, for hydraulic fluids. And again, that too is collected and recycled. When one is filled, they're filling the other one. So those are the fluids, just to be specific. The used oil, as I said, is collected in 55-gallon drums also, and it's hauled off site when they're full. Okay. I would like to introduce to you at this time Mr. Stolfus, and he can come speak to you and answer any questions about his business that you might have. That's okay with you?
Come on up.
Thank you. I think she outlined a little bit what we're looking for there. So I guess if there are any questions, I would try to field them at this time.
Actually, I'm going to have Sean give us the staff report first, and then if you have nothing else right now, then we'll get back to you with questions, okay? Thank you.
Afternoon. The department has reviewed the application and found it to be complete and true representation of the requests as stated herein. The department finds that all minimal requirements for the Fremont County zoning resolution will be satisfied by the application. There is 2 contingency items, some minor changes to the site plan, and then information on the fuel storage, which Dr. Bellantoni just went over. We have a few waiver requests. One is landscaping of the parking area. As you can see on the site plan, the parking area will be inside the screened fenced, so it doesn't make sense to have that broke up. The other is hard surfacing of the parking area. They are proposing gravel in lieu of hard surfacing. And then on the parking, so per the Fremont County zoning resolution, it requires for every 750 square feet of shop area, 1 space. So based off the shop, the size of the shop, we need 8 spots for the building, 5 for the trucks, and then 5 for employees.
Okay.
They are showing 11 at this time. So each truck will be coming in and out, and then the shop will be used when maintenance is occurring or for parking and storage of it.
Okay.
It's not going to have an office or any of those type items.
Okay, all right. Oh, she's shaking her head. No.
I'm agreeing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Anything else, Sean?
That's all I got.
Okay, come on up, sir. Okay, planning commissioners, questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
How many employees are you going to have there?
We operate with 5 employees,
5?
including myself.
And so I understand this correctly, they arrive there, pick up their rigs and head out. Is that correct?
That is correct. For the ones that are doing the work around here We have truck in Pueblo also and a truck in Salida, and they would just drive directly to
Oh, I
those
see.
locations.
Okay. So those trucks may come in here for maintenance or,
That's right.
okay. So will there be any public customers?
There will be no public customers.
Okay.
So you take all your orders and things online or on the phone then?
Nate works out of a office separate from that location.
Okay, all right, okay.
I'm assuming you do all your cleanouts at the site, so you aren't bringing any material home that you're having to dispose of?
Occasionally, we will come back there, we would, but generally clean out is on site.
And what do you do with the material that you have to clean out on your site?
They have a washout generally at the job site
Yeah,
for us.
At the site, but I'm talking about.
If we
here.
come back here,
Yeah.
then it would be hauled away and crushed.
I mean, what do you do? Do you put it in a container, be hauled?
We would
away?
have a containment pit there if that was the case,
Okay.
just a plastic
On your
line.
site.
Right.
And where would that be located?
You know, if we don't have it in there, then we might just would say we wouldn't be able to do that. But if we did, it would probably be just located it would be the northwest corner probably.
So, excuse me, Sean, if he's got to do that, does that have to be an adjustment on this at all, or how is it
If
going
he
to?
wants to do that, we have some other minor changes to the site plan, so they can add that now. If that's something
Okay.
they want to do, and show that on the site plan, so we know where it's at.
Yeah, I would suggest you do that now, just in case.
We can make it so we don't wash out there, but just kind of coming up here, it's a good question.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
great. John?
Sure. So I understand the trucks are filled off-site, is that correct? So with
We
concrete?
arrive at the job and then the ready mix comes to us.
Oh, gotcha. And
then-
you're
then
just
they
the pumper.
We just transfer it from point A to point B.
Gotcha, I understand. Thank you for that clarification. Because I was thinking concrete trucks.
Right.
At the site.
Yes.
Okay, great. So for the 55-gallon drums that you're going to be storing inside your shop, that will have a drain that goes to the on-site water treatment system?
They will just be in secondary containment.
So you'll have secondary containment. Great, that was my question there. And just a couple observations, and this is probably maybe for Alex, for Three Rocks Engineering, but on their soil observation form, it doesn't say who made the observation. And I would think that would be appropriate. None of these are substantive, it's just kind of comments. And then on the on-site water treatment system design, it did not say on the block who reviewed the design. And I would recommend that those are kind of best practices that might be good for the future. And then Sean, just to comment on the document, the PDF that I had on my computer on page 38, it was like there were two different documents merged or something. So there were designs on each side with a strip running down the middle that was weird. It was from another something or other. I don't know if it was just mine or something, but you might look at that and see if your page 38 does that too. And that's all I had.
Okay, all right, good. Mark?
I don't have any questions.
Larry?
I'm okay for the moment.
Okay, all right. Gardner, you got anything?
No, I've got my answer.
Okay, all right.
Is there anyone here to speak?
Is there anyone here to speak on this issue? I don't think so. Okay. Well, this is pretty straightforward to me. I went out and looked at the site, looking on the wrong side of the highway at first, but I found it. Anyway, I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't see a lot of issues with this. The waiver, we have to think about the waiver request, the landscaping of the parking lot, and the hard surfacing, and the alternate parking plan. Those are all waiver requests that are being asked for. So whoever makes a motion here, you'll have to consider those. And we have two contingencies, the changes to the site plan and the info on the fuel storage, and those have been pretty much taken care of. So anyway, I'm open to a motion. Is that working, Gardner?
Fine. I'll make a motion, we approve SRU 20-007 with noted contingencies and waivers.
Second.
I will second it.
Is that you, Larry?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, any further discussion? Larry?
No.
No? Okay. Mark?
Aye.
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 And I.
And I'm sorry, John, I keep forgetting your dad. I think you're part of the press down there.
Well, I said.
It used to be their table.
Could be a common mistake, you know.
Okay, all right. Okay. Very good. Okay, you're past that step and on to the county commissioner's view. Thank you. All right. Okay, item number 2, SRU 20005 Black Hills Hogback Station. Come on up. Please identify yourself and
I'd be glad to. I'm going to slide my mask down. just
that's
because
fine. Okay.
My voice tends to fail, but if that's okay with that. Anyway, good afternoon, Chairman Alsop, Vice Chair Pullen, Mr. Brown, Mr. Fay, Mr. Massar, Mr. Baker, Mayor Hamrick, members of the public, Alice, Sean, Alicia, staff, and my name is Kristen Cochran. I'm here on behalf of Black Hills Energy. Black Hills Energy is the electric provider to over 18,000 homes and businesses, ranches, and institutions in Fremont County. With me this afternoon is Mr. Seth Boudelier in the blue shirt. He's Senior Project Manager, and Mr. Dan Witt, who's the Operations Manager, and my partner, Bo Cochran. So,
Okay.
anyhow, I've got a PowerPoint. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, this is the official propaganda shot, but anyway, you can see that the gray in Colorado, there we go, is electrical. The orange is gas. And Mr. Fay, do you advance or do I advance, or how do we advance to the next slide? Oh, thank you, Sean. I'll just, thank you. Could you advance, please? Or we can go to the, sorry, go back one, would you please? Sorry. Beautiful. So this is Hogback Substation, 123 County Road 69, okay? Oh, and sir, we have 2 special review use permit applications before you. You tell me how you want me to do it.
Need to handle them separately.
Very good. That's how I plan to do
Okay,
it. Thank
all
you
right.
very much, sir. Okay. I think you've got the planning and zoning packets in front of you.
Yes.
I don't want to duplicate what you already know, but I'm hoping for lots of questions, and so I'm going to go at a pretty good clip.
Okay.
But if you've got a question, please just holler, okay?
Okay. All right.
Anyhow, I'd like to start with the Hogback Substation because that's the lower numbered permit. Could you change this slide, please, Sean? Sean's got a nice map in your packets, but I kind of like to pull out a little and just show you what we're doing here. Sorry, I got to make this little thing work. So basically, can everybody see where I'm pointing up there? That's that little yellow pin. So that's where the Hogback Substation would be. Here's US 50, okay? Now, over here, right on top of Mr. Fay's head, is the current, it's called the North Canyon Substation. It's roughly, it looks like it's closer to South Street, but if you know the town, it's basically Natalie and 15th. That is the substation in Canyon City. It was built in 1963. It's all there is for substations in Canyon City. It works okay, but the bottom line is that the North Canyon the Hogback Substation will supplement the North Canyon Substation. The way you get to, and let me just show this really quick. The way you get to the Hogback Substation, obviously, there's the Hogback, is you come out of town, you go in west and then north on US 50, then you come up here to County Road 69, You peel off County Road 69, you go under a couple power lines, and then there's a private access road that goes up there. That's in the Skyline Ranch subdivision. Okay. The North Canyon sub was built about 1963. The Hogback Substation is specifically designed to improve reliability in Canyon City. Right now, if there's a problem with the North Canyon sub down there on 15th and Natalie, outages will last until repairs are made. We had an outage last year, and I apologize to everybody who was affected by that. But it lasted for a couple of hours because 1963 was a long time ago, I should know. And the substation is just not as good as it is a good substation. It's a good 1963 substation. I'd sure like to have a 2020 version or 2021 version up there. Anyway, once the Hogback Substation is up and running, Black Hills will be able to keep the lights on by rerouting electrical circuits. It'll be like a loop feed. So if you remember from science in junior high, electrons have little charges, so they all march in one direction. So if there's a break, this is spinning around so you can see me. If there's a break in the loop, you just reroute those electrons the other way. And we can do that right now without, for example, asking our friends at the Western Area Power Administration to take over the load while we make the repairs, which is, my understanding, that's kind of what happened at the last outage. But I've got people here who are experts if anybody has any questions on it. Anyway, the thing that I think is really important, at least in the Canyon City area, is that this substation will increase reliability so much. The hotel on the corner, Park Hotel, somebody is turning that into a data center or something. I know because my son-in-law does that. These people look at infrastructure. They want to know, can you back up your electrical current? Is there more than one substation? And not that I think 1963 was a bad year or anything, but it was a long time ago. So let's get a new substation. At least that's what I'd like to argue for. Is everybody good on location? Okay, I'm going to work on access now. So this is a little cut and paste out of the Skyline Ranch subdivision. So here is 50. Everybody with me? Here's 69. Here's the private access. Here is the site where the substation will be built. It's a little over 40 acres. This thing right here is the right-of-way for a Black Hills power line that in one form or another has actually been there for 130 years. There's another access up to the north here. Ron Cook from the Canyon City Fire Department, he knows it from work and also from having lived in the area. He tells me it's a pretty rough track, but the access that Black Hills would be using would be this private access down here. Sorry. If anybody doesn't get it, just give me a holler, okay? Can we change the slide, please, Sean? So here's what it looks like when you turn off. So the road right in front of you there is 69. The road that you see going off in the distance is the private access. And it's hard to see right here. So I'm going to try again. Well, if you can see the little box there, it says 123 County Road 69. It's a nice sign. It belongs to Deborah and Lonnie Foster. Their family live on the site now. Black Hills bought it from them in 2018, and they have a lease through the end of this year. They run a dog kennel and breeding business, and they will be moving their home and some of their other outbuildings when the site is developed. I'm guessing the Fosters will be taking their sign, but if you're driving around looking for it, it's a good mark. And you can drive up that access road to the Fosters gate, which is locked, but that's about as close as you can get to because you run out of public right-of-way or not controlled private right-of-way. Could I have another slide, please, Sean? Here's the site plan, and I'm glad to pass around a paper copy. It's kind of hard to read, but all the equipment that you see in the middle of the substation yard, and that's the purpley area in the middle, that is the ultimate build-out. So all that equipment will not be installed initially, but our permit application is to install all of that so that 5 or 6 years from now, I won't be coming back to you and saying, Chairman, also, can I have another transformer, please, sir? So anyway, and I've got a better illustration. Just so you know, The green and the kind of orangey, those are different soil types, and that's on the hills. The purple stuff is what's in the valley. So, Sean, could I have another slide, please? I like this drawing better. This is a plan view. If you're a bird or you have a drone, this is what the substation looks like from the air. The black equipment is what we would be installing now. The red equipment will be installed over the years, okay? But that's everything that's part of this permit. May I have another slide, please, Sean? Here's a cross-section. Basically, this is a slice right through the substation, because I thought you might want to have an idea about how tall this stuff is. The bulk of the substation is under 15 feet. There are three sets of structures or types of structures that are bigger than that. There are these rods called static masts. There's 3 of them that are around the substation. They look like a skinny, skinny flagpole, and they've got a wire around the top. The idea is lightning strikes the wire, the charge is carried down the static mast, and then there's a big grid, kind of like a copper hairnet, that's under the gravel in the substation yard, and the idea is that disperses the electric charge so the whole thing doesn't blow up in a lightning storm. I'm sorry, and I've got 2 of my bosses here. I shouldn't be talking that way, but that's basically the way it works. So, anyway, sorry. I might go out that exit after this is over. Is that okay, sir? I mean, Mr. Baker, you're guarding it, so anyway, just teasing. Anyhow, the Hogback substation will complement the North Canyon substation, that's the existing one, in many ways. It'll share the load, it'll simplify maintenance, it will greatly increase reliability. Plus, the Hogback substation is going to bring more power into the area. Sean, could I have the next slide, please? So that's what the substation is going to look like. So this is the gate, this is the edge of the property. I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm guessing that the Fosters will want to take their nice gate. But I'm going to try with this thing one more time. And so look over here. Can you see that H frame over there? That's part of the power line that you cross under. It comes like this, that you cross under to get to. Way over here, you can see the WAPA, the Western Area Power Administration, the big steel lattice structures. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you can, trust me, it'll be closer, and I can email it to you if you want. But you can see that over in that corner. Come on, thing. Anyway. And then the tops of the substation, you can see sort of those gray poles just at the end of the left side of the road. Thank you, Sean, you're wonderful, you're brilliant. Okay, now, Sean, do you mind scooting that cursor over to the swing set kind of things? Not the tree, just to the left a little. Perfect. So those things that look kind of like swing sets, just so you know, those are about 45 feet high. Okay, and wires are coming in on them, and I call them swing sets. And I'm sure I'm driving my bosses crazy, but that's what they look like, okay? So that's what the substation will look like from the edge of publicly accessible property. This is the Hogback Substation, clever name, right? Anyhow, the effects on adjacent uses, I believe, will be positive, insofar as electric reliability will be dramatically increased. Traffic associated with the current site falls to about 1 trip per month. Black Hills substations are operated out of a big dark room that looks kind of like this, but no windows, in Pueblo, by some guys who have lots of degrees and they're looking at screens and making sure everything's right. So about once a month, somebody will show up and just, kick the dirt a little. But the traffic will go down on average to about one trip a month. The tips of the substation will be visible. Sean, I'm going to try again, but I might need you to get your cursor out. Okay, I got him. See that house right there? It's kind of behind that little hill. That's a residence. When he looks over that hill, he'll see those tips. And those great big tall things are part of the static mast that I was talking about. But he'll be able to see those tips. But otherwise, the site is very, very well concealed. It is not visible from US 50. It's only visible, it would be visible from that guy. The house that's right along the road won't be able to see it because it's hilly terrain. So I think from a visibility standpoint, it's doing pretty well. Also from a visibility standpoint, it's in a busy neighborhood, busy in terms of electrical infrastructure. We got the WAPA line, we've got 3 Black Hills lines, and we've got the substation all piled up in there. So if you want to trespass, if you have trespass in your heart, and it's okay, don't tell anybody, I'm looking at our security guard, but you don't check for that, right? Trespassing? Yeah, probably shouldn't. Okay, good. Well, Sean, would you give me one more slide? This is the trespass view. So if you jump the gate and you run up the private access road, and the fellow who did this drawing, I apologize, here's where the access is going to be, right along here. If you drove all the way up here, and you're trespassing now, that's what the substation is going to look like. Now, the purpley blue stuff, that's future installations. The gray stuff is current installations. So if you think about the photosim, and I can ask Sean to float back and forth if you'd like.
We don't need it, no.
You good? You're okay? But those are the things that I call the swings. See those kind of V-shaped structures? And then the real tall poles, the static masts don't even show here. But anyway, that's the trespass view. Next slide, please. A substation is a permitted use according to the Fremont County zoning resolution. Got the citation up there. Hogback Substation is in the agriculture, forestry zone district, where public buildings, regulators, and substations are special review uses permitted under zoning resolution 4.1.4.21. The current use as a residence and dog kennel breeding facility is not agricultural, so there will be no loss of farmlands. Although the surrounding uses are mostly residential, the size of the parcels and the topography of low hills help buffer. This site was selected for its natural screening, and the substation was selected for its natural screening. The substation will be surrounded by low hills, and the development will not affect the Arkansas River corridor or any mining operations. It is invisible from US 50. The use is compatible and harmonizes with the area. The Hogback Substation will benefit the immediate neighborhood because it'll be quieter, and no offense to Foster's, less odoriferous, and generate less traffic and light than the existing use. It will not use water or generate sewage. It will benefit the region as a whole by ensuring continued abundant electric supplies and greatly increasing reliability to the 69 kV loop that powers Canyon City. It uses no water, uses no schools, no libraries or other public facilities, but will return approximately $107,000 a year in state tax revenues to Fremont County coffers every year. The substation yard will occupy a small fraction of the 40-acre site, which buffers neighbors, increasing compatibility in this rural yet close enough to Canyon City site to make a difference, to effectively increase electrical reliability in the city. Finally, given the multiple utility installations in the area, the addition of a substation, especially one that is so well concealed by the natural topography, maintains harmony with the surrounding land uses. Finally, the Hogback Substation has been carefully sited to further the goals of the urban growth district by ensuring a reliable and abundant electric supply to support the health and safety of Canyon City residents and surrounds, as well as technological, mining, and commercial entities, all without impacting agricultural lands, the Arkansas River corridor, visual or recreational resources, water quality, cultural resources, traffic, or critical wildlife habitat. The substation is sited on a 40-acre parcel with extensive setback to conform to the rural character of the area. Wildlife may even return to the immediate area as the existing residents and dog kennel and breeding facility are replaced by the substation. Finally, construction of this substation promotes the health, safety, convenience, and prosperity of the present and future inhabitants of Fremont County by providing continuing abundant supplies of electrical energy and increasing reliability to all. Let's go with the last slide. Black Hills is grateful to Sean Garrett and the planning office, as well as I can't begin to tell you all the different county offices who have been so helpful. And some of the stuff was crazy what we were looking at. But Justin Grantham, Matthew Sheldon, Ms. Jameson in the health department, they were all very helpful. Sometimes they asked really hard questions, but I think the bottom line is we were able to put together permit applications that meet or exceed your standards. Accordingly, I would respectfully request the Planning Commission endorse this application to the Board of County Commissioners. Can I answer any questions?
Let's hear from Sean, then we'll get back to you,
Yes,
okay?
sir, of course, I
Thank
forgot
you.
to. I'll leave my first place up on here, if that's okay.
I think maybe we'll change the order of this next time, Sean, so you don't have to do that so often.
I do it at BOCC, I've gotten used to it, so that's all right. The department has reviewed the application and found it to be complete and true representation of the request as stated herein. The department finds that all minimal requirements for the Fremont County zoning resolution will be satisfied by the application. There is 2 contingency items, one of which has been taken care of. We did recently receive the approved Fremont County Department of Transportation access permit, so we will no longer list that as a contingency. The other is a few site plan revisions, and then there's 2 waiver requests. One is landscaping of the parking area, the other is hard surface in the parking area. Due to the nature of the project, there's no designated parking areas for this. So,
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. All right, ma'am, come back up now, please.
I'll wait for you.
Okay, planning commissioners, questions? John, go ahead.
Sure. I would just say that in reviewing the application, I wasn't able to pick out the property boundary very easily on the maps that we had. I did see the project area. I do understand really by kind of a lot of inference where the property boundary is, and plus some of the things that you showed us here this morning, this afternoon. But on page 24 of our application, it states that there's not going to be any phone service to the property.
Yes, sir.
And yet the property is to be operated remotely.
Yes, sir.
So there are electromechanical devices on the property that will be.
Indeed, there's a fiber optic line that runs through the static wire. I think it's 12 pair. That controls the substation.
Thank you. That was my question there.
Sorry. It's part
and-
of the SCADA system, the SCADA system.
Yes, I'm
Sorry.
familiar with SCADA systems. Yes, and so what will happen to the house?
Well, it doesn't belong to us, but I believe Mr. Foster, and I'm speaking a little bit out of school, but sorry, I'll step back a little. But anyway, Mr. Foster owns all the improvements, and it's gossip, sir, but when one of my coworkers was out there talking to him, he was getting bids for moving it.
So if I understand correctly, the property that Black Hills purchased does not have a house on it.
It does. It's a 40-acre parcel.
So-
And if Mr. Foster said, and I'm looking at my boss right now, if Mr. Foster said, Shazam, I'd like to stay here, his house isn't where the substation is going to be built. If you know the site, his dog kennels are in the middle of a big kind of corral.
So-
That's where the substation was built.
So perhaps
Okay, let him answer back. I think he wants to.
Yes.
Sure.
Seth Boudelaire, Black Hills Energy. Your question about the residence that's there. The prior owner has the option to move the building, if you would like, before the end of this year. If he doesn't remove the building, then we will come back and ask for a demolition permit.
Thank you. That was, and that's my concern, because vacant buildings in this county can be a magnet for homeless, and it can create other kinds of problems. That's why I'm asking about the fate of the building.
We most certainly do not want to attract people to these facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Also, on the application that Black Hills submitted, these transformers, are they wet or dry transformers?
They're wet, they're full of sorry, sir. They are wet, they're full of mineral oil. And they're in a secondary containment, they're in a dam built around them.
Great.
But they're full of a rather high grade of mineral oil.
Okay, so I believe that's still being even a mineral oil, I believe it's still classified as a hazardous substance. Is that your understanding?
Seth Boudelaire, Black Hills. It doesn't have PCBs in it, but we do have containment pits. So that's regulated by NERC and FERC. But we have full containment pits that are capable of holding all of the oil if there was to be a leak. And then those are monitored and maintained on a regular basis. So we have crews that go to all of our substations. And it's a very in-depth process, as you can imagine, with what we're dealing with. But they go to these substations and inspect them generally once a month. So they're on an inspection schedule, but they do have full containment for any equipment that contains oil.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My concern though, or what I'm attempting to point out here, is your application says no hazardous substances on site, and yet you have transformers filled with mineral oil. That's my question, is mineral oil considered a hazardous substance?
I do not know the answer to that.
And I believe it is, based on, work that I've done, outside this planning commission. But this is somewhat of a trivial point, but somewhat not, because the application does say no hazardous substances. And so if that is the case, either you're not going to be allowed to have wet transformers on the site, based on Black Hills' statement, no hazardous substances, or you need to revise the application.
Understood. I think when we looked at that question, it was PCBs, things like that. But we will review that.
Just a quick question. Brenda, do you have any enlightenment on that? Do you know anything about?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think the mayor is absolutely right. PCBs were added to transformer oil for many years because they're a fire suppressant. However, PCBs persist in the environment, and they're just nasty, nasty stuff. I would ask if it's possible, if it can be a condition or whatever, that I will get the material safety data sheet for the mineral oil, and that'll tell us in a second whether or not it's a hazardous material.
Well, I'm sure that Black Hills has appropriately designed the facility for the use that you intend to put it to. I have no concerns there, but my concern is that the application states there are no hazardous substances when mineral oil may be an example, but there are likely others, I would imagine, that can be classified as hazardous.
I'm pretty sure, well, I will double check, sir, but I'm pretty sure that, they are not. We may have an answer here. What's the answer?
Well, according to Google, it says that mineral oil is on the hazardous substance list because it's regulated by OSHA, cited by a whole bunch of other organizations.
Oh, okay, good. All right, super. Well, I will find out, okay? And then I will do whatever Sean tells me to do in terms of correcting the application or whatever. Does that sound fair? Sean's nodding.
Yeah, I think we can work with that. Okay.
Okay, sounds good, sounds
All right.
good.
Right.
Thanks for pointing that out,
I know
John.
that when I was discussing, fire suppression with Ron Cook at the Canyon City Fire Department and also with Chief Ritter at the Florence Fire Department, we talked about the oil and the containment, and that much was happy with them. But thank you very much, ma'am, for checking that. I'm so impressed you got a signal down here.
And I do have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You do not intend to have lighting for security purposes on the site?
We don't light up our substations at night unless we are told to do so. After 9/11, the federal government said that all substations had to be lit up, but if you light it up at night, it's more of an attraction for copper thieves, sir.
Understand.
And that's a big issue.
And
Sorry.
so the answer to that question,
There is lighting on the sub, but it won't be turned on unless people need to be working there at night.
okay. And Sean, there's no need for a waiver, request for that then? Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then my final question.
Yes, sir.
Is this substation part, Black Hills is proposing a northern loop, a redundant loop, to help ensure a reliable electric service to the county and to the city. Are these substations required for that loop?
These substations require that loop. They're running off of that loop.
So they'll be running off that loop?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have the commissioners taken action on that? Do you know? And my question is where I'm kind of going with this is that is for some citizens, that's a controversial issue, running the line through Penrose. And my question is aimed at finding out whether these substations are kind of the first step in that process, and so that's the reason for my question, is to understand the connection between that northern loop and these substations.
Well, and Sean, jump in here, but the reason we submitted the permits for the substation is the reading of the Fremont County zoning resolution is that transmission lines don't require permit application. Distribution lines do, but transmission lines don't. And so we met with Sean. Sean and I traded emails in the spring, and you and Seth met in June. Sean looked into it, and he found out that indeed, in the past, 2012 specifically, Black Hills had applied for a special review use permit for the transmission line, I call it the AK2, but it starts in Pueblo and it terminates at the Portland substation near Portland. And so there is precedent. So parts of that line will need to go through the special review use permit process.
So with that under section 3.9, distribution lines are allowed uses in all zone district. Transmission lines require an SRU.
Yes.
Just to clarify on that.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
to be continued, yeah.
Okay, anything else, John? Okay, good questions. Okay, all right. Somebody had over here. Gardner, go ahead.
Will you be running new lines from the substation into and through Canyon City to the 15th Street substation?
Some of it will use existing, some of it will connect, and the lines that come out of the substation are underground. But I think I'm going to look to my boss again to give you the details on that, sir.
Would you like me to state my name each time I
No,
speak?
we're good. We've got it. Okay.
All right, Pueblo you have to. So. So to answer your question, there's an existing 115 kV line that comes from Pueblo through Portland, south of Wholesome, comes into the Old Canyon plant. From there, it goes into the West Station, or West Canyon substation. So that line is the one that she showed you on the screen, that you could see a little bit of the H-frames. So that line will actually tie into the Hogback, and that's how we'll feed back through the existing 115. Now, the 69 coming into the North Canyon sub, what we're gonna do with that loop is we're gonna run along the new transmission line with the 69, and then we're gonna rebuild some of the distribution down, is it York? And then tie into the 69 that's already there. So trying to minimize the amount of new line so it's, what's York Street, a couple miles? Almost 3 miles, and that's still kind of under design. We're trying to figure out how to really mitigate that 69. But the plan is to go down that York, rebuild the distribution, and then rebuild the existing 69 that goes from North Canyon up to Victor. Just rebuild that so that it can carry the power back into North Canyon. So what that's gonna do at the end of the day is Hogback will feed back to the existing Canyon plant sub, and then it will feed back down into North Canyon. So you're gonna add another hub that we can push power back and forth and pull it off our 115 line. The whole purpose of this entire project, and I'm gonna let Sean talk a little bit about how this permitting is working. Some of the transmission, I believe, from our email correspondence will be included with these substations on what we've already acquired back to the west of Penrose. And then as we work through that section in Penrose, which our goal is to find a path that works for everybody. We've kind of been at a slow spot with this COVID and permitting, but that's still a complicated situation. Everything west of Penrose has been voluntarily signed. So we have all those easements. So this is the first stage to the project. If we build Hogback and we get Penrose, we get the benefit to Penrose because we have power feeding Canyon now. Brings into Penrose. Penrose is fed off of a single 69 kV line with a single substation with a single transformer. So if we lose that line or that substation, Penrose is black, period. No way to backfeed them. So the new sub in Penrose with this portion of the line, we understand it's not all of it, will give us the capability to feed Penrose. It'll give us the capability to build out in Canyon City. And then we'll work on how we get that tied into the last little portion, which is about 3 miles. That being said, you guys have been here for a while. You've also experienced the complete blackouts in Canyon City. Last summer, 2+ hours, no one in Canyon had power. It's because we only have one feed. So we feed off of, through Pueblo from West Station, we feed the southern part with one single 115 line. So we lose that, we lose you guys. That's all there is to it. Our contingency, the way that we meet our requirements from the government, is we have emergency capabilities on the WAPA line. So we can isolate our system, call WAPA, do a bunch of switching, bring you back on. Takes several hours. It's happened twice in 2 years. We can't run that closed. WAPA's 230 line is far too powerful. It'll overload our system and burn things up. So I know I kind of went off topic, so I apologize about that. But I mean, in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do, is bring you guys reliability so that you can have things like the Cloud Hotel, tech startup, reliable energy, your hospitals don't go out. I mean, we've seen it happen here, so we have to fix it. So, sorry, back to where we were. Additional questions?
No, I just wondered if you were gonna be running new lines over the Hogback to town, or
So,
answering my question, or is it back through?
yeah, we gotta bring it back over the top of it, and right alongside that 230 line, to the extent possible, is our plan.
Okay.
Other questions out there?
Larry, you got anything?
Not at present time.
The site, you're not fencing the whole site that you own there, right?
No, not the whole 40 acres. There'll be a fence around the substation yard, but not the whole 40 acres. Well, there's a fence there now, but we probably won't be taking
Okay.
it down.
And again, would you advise us what the maximum height of the equipment's going to be? You indicated 15-foot maximum height.
No, I'm sorry. The bulk of the substation is under 15 feet. The transformer, I mean, you can think of a transformer as like a human toaster. On a piece of toast, I fit in the transformer.
Try to speak into the speaker if you could, okay?
I'm sorry.
You can leave your mask down, okay. Go ahead. Leave the mask down while you're talking.
Very good. So elevations. The bulk of the substation, in terms of most of the equipment, is under 15 feet. The structures that I called swings, those are 45 feet high. And on the top of them, there is a slender lightning rod that's another 10 feet. That's 55 feet. I don't have the exact elevation of the 3 static masts, which are the 3 great big, like flagpoles that go around, but they have to be above that, and they have like a halo or wire around them to catch lightning. So I would guess 60 foot. I think that would be, but those are the little tiny things that you can see how visible they are.
No, that's why I asked the question, and I didn't want anybody to get left with the impression it was only going to be 15 foot
Oh, goodness,
during
no.
your
Goodness, no.
original presentation.
I'm sorry, sir. I must
That's
not have been
okay.
clear.
I just
Okay.
wanted that
Thank you.
clarification.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Are there aviation lights on there, or any kind of lights on top of the tall data?
No, because they're under 200 foot. Generally speaking, you only have to put those lights up if you're 200 foot or above, or you're near an airport. And I don't know, unless we're going to permit an airport on top of the Hogback on Skyline Road, I think we're okay.
Okay.
So Let me ask one more question, I'm sorry.
Sure, no, it's all right.
Please, please.
What's going to be the height of the fence around the substation?
8-foot chain link with barbed wire.
Okay.
We want to discourage people from getting in there because that's a great way to get fried.
And you all do understand the weed management statements?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've supplied the Black Hills Energy weed management policy to your noxious weed office, and they've signed off. Basically, we use herbicide 10 months out of the year. Again, it's a fire suppression thing so that nothing can grow on the substation. As far as the areas that are disturbed around it, we have a stormwater management plan. So not only do we have the state looking at us, we have your offices looking at us to make sure we revegetate and stay with the site until we've got 70% of existing. And existing, even if there's noxious weeds there today, and I don't know that there are, I don't think so, it has to be approved, seed mixtures. And we've run those past your noxious weed office.
I thank you for clarifying that. I know it was in the application, but I just want to make sure it's a record.
Oh, absolutely. Please, anything. I mean, and I can give you a copy of it.
That's going to be important in the future.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Sir, I've revegetated a lot of things, and I've met people who hate brome. No brome, no brome. Yes, sir, yes, sir.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
For Sean. Sean, this is going to be this for 50 years. Is that typical?
So that's our user, or generally for life of use, whatever that life of use is going to be.
If you think about it, the North Canyon Substation was built in 1962. Of course, it still looks great, but...
Right. I understand.
Mark?
Any questions?
Okay. Larry?
No, I'm okay now.
All right, okay. I think my questions have been answered already, so I don't think anyone here was here to speak on this issue.
May I, even though I didn't fill out a slip?
Go fill it out first, then bring it to me.
Sir, this one.
Can I talk on the phone? It won't take long.
I'll get out of here. Sean, can you stay up here to respond?
Larry Swisher, I live at 707 Cedar Hills Road, Penrose, Colorado.
Well, I think I've got a slip from you already on the other issue, don't it?
Yeah.
That's good enough, then. You can talk, then.
Just a couple of comments about the North Canyon Station being built in 1963. Well, that's good to know, but I doubt the equipment in there dates back to 1963. Thank you for that clarification. The photo simulation from County Road 69, that's cool, but County Road 69 doesn't see a lot of action. US 50 is a very busy federal highway. I would contend that anybody coming down 50, 8 Mile Hill, is going to see this site, and they're going to see it plainly. Just like they see the existing Black Hills transmission lines, just like they see the WAPA line, okay? So when people talk about, we got berms, it fits in naturally, I doubt it. And that's the only comments I want to make.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, any further questions or comments? I'm open to a motion. John, go ahead.
Sure. Chairman and fellow commissioners, I move we approve request for SRU 20-005, the Black Hills Energy Hogback Station, with the added contingency of some minor, some site plan revisions, and the 2 waiver requests for landscaping of the parking area and hard surfacing of the parking area.
Second?
Okay, I have a second. Any further comments?
I just want to clarify real quick on John on that motion. Is that going to be to include getting the information on the hazardous materials? I mean,
Yes,
what transformers?
and perhaps revise the application if needed.
Okay, all right. Is that good with your second, Larry? Any further comments? Discussion? Okay, Gardner?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay. All right, moving on. That next one is SRU 20006, Black Hills North Penrose Station. I'm going to change the order just a little bit here, okay? Hold on. I want to let Sean go ahead and give his staff review first. Then maybe we can stop all the having to clean things up back and forth.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, the department has reviewed the application and found it to be a complete and true representation of the request as stated herein, and the department finds that all minimum requirements for the Fremont County zoning resolution will be satisfied by the application. This one, again, had the department, Fremont County Department of Transportation access permit as a contingency. That has been met. That's been submitted, so we no longer need that. The other one is site plan revisions, and with this particular site, there is a lot line. So it's actually two separate lots, and this is going to kind of span both of those. And so we need approval of a vacation interior lot line between those two lots as a contingency for approval on this. If this didn't get approved for some reason, there's no point in vacating that line at this point. They are working on that application and getting that to us. Okay. So, and then the two waiver requests, the same as the last one, landscaping of the parking area and hard servicing of the parking area.
Okay, thank you. All right, ma'am, come on back up, please.
Thank you, Sean. I'm thinking of your mom all the time. She loves you about not cleaning your room. She should be here.
Okay, if you could lower your mask so we can hear you better,
Yes, sir.
and then
Thank
speak into the speaker as much as possible, okay?
Yes, sir, and just give a shout if I move around too much
Okay.
or something, okay?
All right, okay.
Everybody okay? Anyway, thank you, Sean. You're on it. Well, as you can tell by now, Black Hills is tremendously clever in naming their substations. I bet you guessed right away where the Hogback one was. I bet you can guess where this one is. This would be in North Penrose. The street address is 19K Street. It will back up the Penrose substation, which is about 3 miles south, to minimize outages and share the load. As my boss, Seth Boudelaire, was talking about, Penrose is kind of dangling out there at the end of the line. And this will help tremendously because we'll be able, as we work out the stuff in the Penrose area and east, we'll be able to feed this from the west. So it's in the agricultural rural zone district. The site's about 22.5 acres, and the substation will take up about 2 acres of that. Could I have the next slide, please? Oh, you've seen the propaganda slide. So this is, sorry, it's not great, but again, here's the north. Thank you, Sean. You're wonderful. So Sean's got, can everybody see Sean's cursor up there? So there's Highway 115. There's K Street. Little pointy piece of land up there. That's where this would be located. I'm going to go all the way down here now, and I hope I can see it. Yeah, there it is. Right there is the. Oh, thank you very much, Sean. You got better eyes than me, that's for sure. North. That is the Penrose substation right now. I have a beautiful picture of it. Again, I think it's circa 1963, and as Mr. Swisher pointed out, I'm sorry, sir, the equipment is not original. Some equipment here is, but not that. Anyway, the substation is literally 3 miles north of the existing, okay? Let's go to the next slide. This is just a photograph looking down K Street. I just want to point out that rise there. Could I see the next slide, please? Here's the site plan, and it came out kind of chubby when I laid it up on the slide, but I think you've got a copy in your packet too. You can see where the substation is in the bottom part of the site, and those kind of orangey lines, one on each side, those are describing drainage areas, but they also are pointing out some of the hills. Basically, where you see vegetation, those little green jobs, those are little hills. So you'll note that there are good rises along Highway 115, and there's good rises too, right east of the sub along K Street, okay? This is, of course, the bird's eye view. And we're not going to be building in the north half of the site. That'll keep the site triangle clear for getting from K Street onto 115 or vice versa. Could I have the next slide, please, sir? Again, this is a plan drawing. You guys are old hands at this now. The black stuff is the equipment that's going to go in now. The red equipment is what will be added over the next 5 to 10 years. But this permit is for everything you see. May I have the next slide, please? My engineers aren't too keen on hearing this, but at least to most of us, substations look alike. So let me go over real quick the elevations and things again. The bulk of the equipment in the substation is under 15 feet in height. So if you can see these lines here, and I know you can't, maybe you can read them, I can't read them. But anyway, that's 15 feet. This line right here, okay? This line right here, you can see those little tippy top things? That's 22 feet, okay? So the bulk of it, the bulk is about 15 feet, is under 15 feet. We don't have any good slices here, because I wanted to slice through the bulkiest stuff when I asked the engineer to draw it. But again, you're gonna have those swing set jobbies, okay, that look like inverted, or look like A's or inverted V's. Those are going to be about 45 feet high at the top, and then there'll be a slender, literally this big around mast that goes off the top to collect lightning strikes. That's like a secondary system. The primary system, and you can kind of see them here, is look on the top row, see those tall, slender things right there? We've got a couple slices of a static mast in there. And those they look like flagpoles, but again, they have a wire that connects them around the top like a big halo. They collect the lightning strike. They then relay the lightning down those static masts into what I call the copper hair grid, which is about 6 inches below the ground on the substation, okay? So in the, well, I guess I talked about that. The point of this new substation in the Penrose area is to share the load with the existing substation so that that substation can be more easily maintained and shut down. If it is shut down for maintenance, the new North Penrose substation can take the entire load. Today, Penrose has one source of power. That's that 69 line coming in. So if something happens, they are completely without power until repairs are made. When the North Penrose substation is online, it will pick up the load and keep the lights on, even if the Penrose substation, that one that's down south about 3 miles, goes offline. This is the reliability I'm trying to emphasize. Now I'd like to do some ancient history. Sean, could we do the next slide? So in the early 1900s, and I'm sure you all are very familiar with the Beaver Park Land Development Company, they platted, oh my gosh, 1 million acres, well, not 1 million, but I'm sure Sean goes with better numbers than that, but they platted much of this area in 10-acre square plots. And the two little yellow ones at the top, tracks 3 and 4, they're the northern tippy top of that. When this area was platted, a 25-foot right-of-way was platted around the perimeter of every 4 tracks. So 3 and 4 are now, those yellow ones there, they're now the southern half of this site. So there's a 25-foot right-of-way running across the north. Never developed, nobody drives on it. There's a 25-foot right-of-way running down the west side, and on the east side, the 25-foot right-of-way is part of K Street, so that's not going anyplace. But Planning and Zoning has asked us to vacate that 25 feet, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Let me show you the next slide, and I think it'll make even more sense. So this is a survey of the site that we did when we bought it in 2018. You can see tracks 3 and 4. And again, those are those little 10-acre tracks that were platted. So I'm just trying to get everybody's eyes. So there's 3 and 4 right there, okay? And then see right along here, that's that 25-foot right-of-way. Here's 25-foot right-of-way. Here's 25-foot right-of-way that will not be vacated. It's part of K Street, this K Street. This, of course, is 115. The Beaver Park was platted long before anybody even thought of 115. So it slices through the property. Most of the access rights are gone. And you can see where CDOT, there I go. See that little triangle up there? CDOT's bought that off. And this little nibble out piece here, it's bought that off too, because that's all CDOT property now. But the substation is going to be right down here. Anyway, I threw the survey in because it speaks more to me, and I think it's a lot easier to figure out what we're going to be vacating. So we'll vacate that 25-foot right-of-way on the north and the west sides, and then that will leave a space between, in essence, and help me if I say this wrong, Sean, but a space between the northern kind of triangular parcel and the 2 tracks on the bottom. And we'll do a lot line vacation to clean it up and make it one parcel. Any questions on that? Okay, let's do the next slide. This photo is, if you can read the street sign, there's Highway 115 and K Street. So the site is that away. Part of what you see belongs to CDOT, but you can see the rise there. And if you were to continue driving down K Street, oh, yeah, next slide, please, sir. This is what you see. So this gravel area here, this is all made up, this part of the photo sim. That doesn't exist. And there's the substation. So if you were standing in the public right-of-way on K Street and you were looking due west, that's what you'd see. Again, there's a color difference. The purpley stuff is future. The gray stuff is present. But we're permitting for all of it. And that's what you'd see from the road. Next slide, please. North Penrose Substation is in the Agriculture Rural Zone District. In that district, a public utility building, regulator, or substation is a special review use permitted under Fremont County Code Resolution 4.4.4.19. The numbers, as I'm sure you all know, change as you change with the zone district. The property is not used for agriculture, so there will be no loss of farmlands. The majority of the 22-plus acre parcel will remain undeveloped, and that is an error in my slide. I'm sorry. Working late. The substation only occupies 2 acres. It doesn't occupy three, but your materials are accurate. The use is compatible and harmonizes with the area because it supports the rural residential environment in this district by unobtrusively providing reliable and abundant electric supplies to the Beaver Park, Penrose area. Again, it will not use water, will not generate sewage. Post-construction traffic will be minimal. It will not use schools or libraries or other public facilities, but will return approximately $66,340 every year to county coffers. And you'll note that this substation is only going to bring in $66 grand to the county, whereas North Canyon was 106 or 107. That's because there's more equipment at North Canyon. And the way the county taxes stuff, you tax business, personal property. So the bigger the substation, the more the taxes. The North Penrose Substation will complement the existing Penrose Substation at about 11th and H by greatly improving reliability in the area and reducing electric outages from hours to minutes. The North Penrose Substation site has been carefully sited to meet the goals of the Penrose Beaver Park District by ensuring reliable and abundant electric supply to support the health and safety of Penrose and surrounds without disrupting the largely rural nature of this area. The parcel size is large in this area of 10-acre or less tracts, and use will be difficult to see from Colorado 115 and K Street due to the large setback and buffering associated with rises on the perimeter. I think you will have a very bad car accident if you're driving on 115 and you try to see this substation. My guess is you might see the static mass if you've got good eyes and somebody else is driving, but don't do this without, pulling off on the highway. Construction of the substation furthers the goals and objectives of the Fremont County Master Plan by promoting the health, safety, convenience, prosperity, and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of the county by ensuring abundant supplies of electric energy, all with greatly, greatly increased reliability. For me, the bottom line is the North Penrose substation will greatly improve reliability in this area, in the entire Penrose area. It'll cut outages from hours to minutes, which will protect the health and safety of county residents, as well as agricultural pumps, mining operations, and businesses in the area. Black Hills is grateful to the Planning and Zoning Department for its finding that this permit application is in compliance with the Fremont County zoning ordinance and respectfully requests the Fremont County Planning Commission's endorsement of this application to the Board of County Commissioners. May I answer questions?
I'm going to go ahead and take the public comments first, and then we'll get back to you, okay? Because maybe you can answer some of their questions, too.
Okay, great. Should I stay at the podium? Or
No,
should
just
I
sit down, please.
Oh, okay, great. All righty, sorry. I'm going to clean it. It's done. Well, I'll squirt it.
Okay, I have 5 or 6 comment slips here. Janet Jordan. I'm going to limit comments to about 3 minutes, okay, folks?
And I will respectfully pass on one presentation on behalf of the community.
Okay.
If you would like me to split it up, otherwise I can go through and then the other people will not be doing their presentations. It's up to you.
So you're representing some other people, you're saying, who
Yes.
will not be speaking then?
Well, you've got slips for other people there.
I do.
And so some of them will not be presenting then if I am allowed to go through the presentation on behalf of all of us.
How long would your presentation be?
It is about 10 minutes.
About 10.
I'm not included in that group.
You're not included in that. Who is included in that group? And your names? I'm sorry? Okay. Who else? Okay, I saw, okay, who else?
I'm Cynthia Melcher. I didn't do a sheet like Janet.
Okay. Anyone else on that she's representing? Okay, I'm gonna give you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is there another handout? I'd like to have one.
Oh,
I only brought 6 for the board right now, but I'd be happy to get you one afterwards.
I think there was a misunderstanding on how many of you were on the commission.
I do not.
you don't have another one out there?
I can give you, here's the pictures.
Okay, ma'am, keep it as brief as you can, okay?
Okay, gentlemen, I'm here today representing the people of Penrose. We have serious questions and concerns regarding the location of this proposed application for the Penrose North Substation. We are not opposed to the concept of a substation. We are opposed to the location. And to be honest, as we talked about before, this substation location is part and parcel of a large project not even yet approved by the Pueblo County at its source, or with an SRU application for transmission line siting in Fremont County. So I'd like to go through then now and note things in the application that we have concerns and questions with. Site and Development, Section 1, Application Number 1. In the July 8th deficiencies letter from Mr. Garrett to Black Hills, he asked for information and materials associated with the transmission lines. Black Hills' response from Mr. Seth Baudelaire is, quote, "The company's SRU applications for the North Penrose Substation and Hogback Substations do not seek approval for the transmission line. The company is not aware of any requirement directing the company to seek approval of the transmission line. In addition, the county has not directed the company to seek approval of the transmission line under its regulations. But in cooperation, they submitted pictures of what a pole would look like, general information map about the Hogback substation layout, and an overview of the project overall. So our first question, are they saying they don't have to permit the transmission line since there's no county requirement? We all know that Penrose Substation isn't going to be wireless. So how can you properly evaluate the siting and approve the substation without knowing all the elements disclosed, without knowing where transmission lines enter and leave the site, and how this substation is going to connect to provide the stated reliability to Penrose? Is this substation going to connect to the existing Penrose substation at all? And how? Lines down residential K Street, down scenic Highway 115? And what type of lines are we talking about? If no connection, how is power going to be even distributed to Penrose? And how soon after construction is this all going to take place? In the same deficiencies letter, Mr. Garrett asked them to provide reception numbers for all the recorded easements with the proposal and include those on the transmission lines. Black Hill's response is they provided a chart of numbers in an email to Mr. Garrett on July 29th. According to our verbal discussion with Mr. Garrett, conveniently the numbers only include sites west of Highway 115 to Canyon City. Black Hills does not want to discuss the fact that they have not secured a path from the Pueblo County line to this proposed substation, and there are more properties affected in this area. Section 2, impact analysis. Application item number 4, visual impact control measures. Quoting the application answer, the substation is planned for the southerly portion of the site. Natural dirt berms along State Highway 115 reduce visual impacts from the north and west, and setback from K Street and nearby residences reduces the visual impact as well. I've handed you each photos taken going north on Highway 115 progressing, south on 115, and as well as from residences on K Street. With the highway elevation and K Street elevation above the proposed site, there is no berm that blocks the area visually. With no plans, including elevation drawings submitted at this application, the structures, even given the pictures submitted that we just supplied to you, how can you conclude there be a visual control measure at all? It's open clearly to the roads. Black Hills intends to do nothing to the property and has asked for a landscape waiver, despite the apparent removal of trees needed for the property. Clearly, you can see that the pictures, any and all structures will be fully visible. Fremont County Master Plan A.3.6, quote, recommends for a professional level traffic study to be conducted for all proposed development prior to an application submission, end quote. While CDOT has advised that they, since they're not seeking access from Highway 115, there's nothing else for them to explore as far as this goes, I doubt that. But would it not be beneficial to know the traffic counts that will view this site? How many thousands of tourists, residents, and potential residents to this county will have full view every day of the proposed substation that sits at the entrance to the Arkansas Valley? On that note, CDOT Code of Colorado Regulations 3.1.8 addresses aesthetic considerations of a utility facility and installation, specifically with codes on vegetation, views, and location along a scenic highway. A substation is a terrible first view of Fremont County and the Arkansas Valley. Section 3, required submittals attachments. Application number 7, the landscape waiver request. The waiver request shows Black Hills' intent to utilize the natural hardscape as screening and locate the site to the southwest, closer to scenic Highway 115. Many mature juniper, pinyon, and cedar trees are going to have to be removed, as you could see from her overhead view of the map, during construction and to construct that access road that she showed you there. The removal will further open the visibility from K Street. Application number 8, lighting. I had noted on here that the site's to include emergency lighting only, so let's be clear on this. That doesn't mean it's going to be lit up at night. Application item number 11, county roadway impact analysis. In responding to Mr. Garrett's deficiencies request on the expected impact on roadways, the same answer was given for both the Penrose North and the Hogback Substations applications, when in fact these have very different access points. Penrose North will access off County Road K. And will all construction traffic then on this be down residential K Street? Or is it gonna go on scenic Highway 115? On the roadway analysis impact form, number 4 is the first time that we actually see the purpose of the substation. Item 4, proposed use says, quote, development and operation of an electric substation that will support the existing electric grid in Penrose and surrounds by increasing reliability and ensuring abundant electric supply to homes, businesses, and agriculture in the grid. Special benefits will accrue to electricity-reliant industries such as agricultural pumps and mining. What agricultural pumps do we have? What mining operations are we talking about? Does this mean that they're gonna run a 115 kV line up Highway 115 to supply Martin Marietta north at the El Paso County line? Or does this mean Wholesome? And if for them, why not put this substation closer to Wholesome to begin with? Application items 13 and 14 complies goals and objectives of the county master plan and statement of how it will be harmonious and compatible to the existing land uses and development. Where is the required statement? They don't have any on this application. The Fremont Master Plan, Chapter 4, says the proposed use should have a minimal effect on adjacent uses. The land and its location should be compatible and harmonious, and its surrounding neighborhood, and should not impact the rural character of the county. This property is located along scenic Highway 115 and is classified as BLM Class 2. The Class 2 zoned objective is to partially retain the existing character of the landscape. The level of change to the characteristic should be low. The Colorado State Highway 115 from the El Paso County line to the Florence city limits is listed under the scenic roadways and is zoned Class 2 under that qualification, referenced from Chapter 4 Fremont Master Plan, Category J, Visual Resources. The Penrose Water District is limited and cannot expand to provide water to residents outside their stated boundary. So how does changing this property to a utility use that requires no water beneficial to residential expansion within the community? It takes up valuable residential agricultural property in an already restricted area. Furthermore, obviously valuable property views will be greatly impacted and property values decreased. When the Colorado Public Utilities Commission originally approved a new KV transmission line in 2017, Black Hills supplied them a map indicating this substation at Soda Springs. The Penrose North location was not submitted and approved by the state until July 1, 2020, after the application was submitted to Fremont County. While the state has approved a substation, they also add that they do not in any way approve their sightings. Black Hills simply states measures will be taken to not have a negative impact, by the placement in the southwest corner behind existing landscape. Is this proof of harmonious compatibility? Look at the picture, the very first picture I show you. This is not true. Application item number 15, fire protection. Black Hills responded to the deficiencies letter that the fire protection plan was attached. What was attached is for the Hogback Substation, not Penrose North. Have we received the correct report yet? Is it not required to send it on? The site plan, item N, requirements indicate the size and shape of all existing and proposed structures be shown, and nothing was attached to the application. So today, in watching this, was the first time that we have seen any type of drawings for public review, so we question, what does it look like? They've got schematic drawings. Why are they just not showing you that rather than the flimsy items they're showing? How many towers? Where are the wires coming in and out? How tall are the wires? How many? Now and in the future. And where's the elevation plan for this substation? You should all be familiar with the substation that sits up behind Whitewater Bar and Grill, tucked in up to the mountain. Well, picture taking that and sticking it on this property on 115 and K Street. That'll give you the best visual possible, and that's not harmony. It's nice that Black Hills advises that the substation will generate $64,400 in tax revenues. Very attractive to a county that's struggling right now. But the reality is that this revenue is there wherever it's located in the county, not just at this location. How can you approve an SRU for the North Penrose substation without knowing the proposed route of transmission lines? In, out, connecting. How many lines are there? How tall? How tall will the towers be now and in the future? If the reliability that is to be provided is so wonderful, why do we have over 800 petition signatures wanting this out of the Penrose Water District? There's a reason that answers have not been forthcoming. With a change in land use, it is appropriate to require a higher standard of development per your application process, and this project does not fit the county master plan. We are asking you to please deny this application at this location. Questions, gentlemen?
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Swisher?
Okay, yeah, Larry Swisher, again, it's the 707 Cedar Hills Road, Penrose. Well, a lot of what I was going to talk about has been covered, but I can always find something else to say. It was 2 years ago when my one and only appearance before this commission, and it was fairly new in the process, September 2018. We'd put together our group called Penrose Neighbors for a Better Route. I wanted to come and introduce our group, not the idea of our group, to the commission, talk a little bit about the project, and especially some about how this would impact our community. Well, I didn't get a chance to do that because I was going to talk about something, an item that had not come before the commission. And Chairman Alsop said he didn't want to prejudice the commissioners, so I didn't do it. But I am back here. What's missing has been talked about, and I think you fleshed it out, or scared it out of the bushes or whatever, the fact that these substations mean nothing without more power coming in. Okay, so I want to talk maybe a little bit about how, well, let me start it this way. There's two substations, if I add up the acreage, that the actual footprint of the substation for both is 6 acres. Okay? The transmission line from, what do they call it, West Station in Pueblo to this new Hogback station that's proposed is 39 miles. So let's say 20 miles are going to be in Fremont County. I don't think that's an unreasonable guess. The actual utility easement itself, and I know this because we got the knock on the door in July of 2018 with an offer to buy a utility easement. It's 125 feet wide. So you take that times 20 miles, divide it by 43,650 or something. You end up with the acres, okay? We're talking 300 acres here for the transmission line itself. That's an order of magnitude of 50 over just these substations. So what I really want to get to is this notion that in Fremont County, you can apply for these 2 substations, which meet, we've seen it, they meet your requirements for the zoning. You can do that without any mention, well, they make a mention only because it was brought up. How can you do this without the whole package? And I think I know why. Because, and don't take this personally, okay, in Fremont County, the land use regulations lack power. The kind of power that would require an applicant to wrap this all together and come before you and present it. Where do you get that kind of power? House Bill 74-1041. It's been around since 1974. Pueblo County implemented 1041 in 1978. And they're not the only county that's done it. I can refer you guys to a study that's been done by the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, which surveys counties that have done this, and they're pretty happy with having done it, and the reasons why they did it and how they use it. It's very useful. It allows you to do these projects, what do they call them? Activities in areas of state interest, of which this obviously is. We're going from one county to the next with a huge project. It allows local authorities to have more say in how they can regulate things like this. I don't think we have that here. Pueblo County, with that kind of power, you're familiar with the Colorado Springs Southern Delivery System, huge water project. Pueblo County was able to wrangle, win, whatever, get concessions from Colorado Springs Utilities on that project only because they had 1041 implemented. More recently, their 1041 powers have enabled the Pueblo County Commissioners to, in 2018, unanimously deny the 1041 application from Black Hills Energy for the project's portion in Pueblo County, unanimously denied it. Black Hills Energy came back in 2019, and here we are in September of 2020, and it still hasn't been decided. This is because Pueblo County has 1041. They can ask things of applicants that I don't think can be asked of here in Fremont County. And that's the gist of what I wanted to talk about. So, thank you.
Thank you. What's your name, ma'am?
Nancy, right?
Okay, very good. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Nancy Wright. I'm a resident of Penrose. In fact, the line that's supposed to feed this substation goes right behind my back porch within feet, supposedly. I am, of course, fighting that. My feelings were included in Janet's statement, but we have another Penrose resident that couldn't be here today, Sandy Crawford, and her husband Freeman, and I'm going to read her letter. I'm going to give you all a copy.
Okay, all right.
Won't take me 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, this letter is from Sandy Crawford and Freeman Crawford. They're Penrose residents. To the Board of Fremont County Planning and Zoning, I am writing in regard to your review and potential approval or disapproval of Black Hills Energy's request to put in an electrical substation at the corner of Highway 115 and K Street. I am certainly hoping that you will use careful evaluation of the consequences of this substation to my community. I moved here with my late husband in 2005 from South Dakota to build our retirement home. I am self-employed and have been here and have been for many years, so consequently my retirement is my home. We loved the area here as we had all the benefits of country living, but still the convenience of having access to all we needed in a reasonable distance. We realized that Penrose was unincorporated
and saw the benefits and the limitations. We believed that since we had no city government, that the county would look after our best interests. I am counting on that here. My husband and I have been involved in having information sign-up sheets available to those in the community who oppose, for a variety of reasons, this substation and the infringing power lines to follow. Never have I seen such overwhelming opposition and outright anger that Black Hills Energy would come in and purchase a piece of property and declare that they were putting a substation in the proposed location without ever asking the community first. I have read the 14 points that are being considered in the application. Many issues are not discussed, including the visible poles and lines, the use of precious property within our water district, and the well-being of the citizens. They are all factors that should be considered prior to your approval. I have known of Black Hills Energy for a long time, as I have lived 20 years in South Dakota. When it was a small company, it was praised and valued by South Dakota citizens. When it developed into this big corporation, the citizens and their property became less and less important, and padding the pockets of the shareholders more important. Don't get me wrong, I believe with all my heart in capitalism and the freedom to succeed. Never did our forefathers and those who fought for that freedom intend for it to be abused in such a way as to compromise others for the sake of profit. Black Hills Energy can find many other places to put their substation than at the gateway to my community. If you look at their profit loss statements, they are getting richer at the expense of their constituents. I realize that many of what I am writing is not a part of the 14 points, but it is the fundamental difference between right and wrong that should be number one on those points. There is no gray area there. The 800 signatures compiled in a very short time should be enough for you to understand that the citizens of this community do not want Black Hills Energy to put a substation at that corner of 115 and K Street. We, as citizens and residents of this community, count on you as our county government to protect our best interests. I, my husband, and many others are counting on you to make the right decision and deny this application. Sandy Crawford and Freeman Crawford. That is the feelings of many of us in Penrose. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that's all of the public comments. Sean, do you have anything to address in regard to the comments here?
I'll address a few of them. Okay, on the transmission line, as discussed earlier through the other application, the transmission line from this point, from this substation through to Pueblo County, would be a separate application, separate process.
Right.
We're just looking at this substation in Penrose right now. Okay, the easements were for any line that's going to go between this Penrose substation and the previous Hogback one. And so that was a discussion with Black Hills on that.
Okay.
Those have been secured. I don't know where they stand with all of them going from the North Penrose substation through to Pueblo County. On the landscaping aspect, what the requirement is that the commission and the board can require that landscaping be placed in the parking areas to break it up. So we don't have this vast amount of asphalt or concrete sitting there. It's not landscaping of the project itself or around the borders, buffering, anything of that nature.
Okay.
So that's that request.
Okay, good. All right.
And then traffic. So they did submit the roadway impact form. It's based on how many trips are going to be made in conjunction with the application. This was, the application was filled out, was sent to FCDOT for review as the access is off of K Street, and then also sent to CDOT for comment.
Okay.
As the access is coming off of K Street and is not within that 500 feet, CDOT did not have any concerns.
Okay, all right.
And we do have the correct comments from the Penrose Fire District, Florence Fire District, Penrose Station.
Okay,
as well.
all right, thank you. All right, commissioners, do you want to hear from the applicant again to have them answer some of their questions?
Yeah, and I have some questions for the applicants.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, come on back up.
First, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for the hard work and looking at this, because we want to make a project better. So Thank you.
Okay, now, please try to address
I'm
us,
sorry,
okay,
I said
and
thank
into
you. I
the
was just
speaker.
saying thank you to the
Okay.
folks for working. I apologize.
Okay, it's all right. Go ahead, Mark.
Yes. sir.
So, yeah, my question is about the lines that attach to this, and maybe it's a better question for the other guy, but where are the lines going to attach to this substation? And where are they coming from, and how are they going to, yeah, if you can
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, my boss, Mr. Boudelier.
Okay.
Do you want any illustrations?
I think we can discuss it, and then if we have some questions about location, we can probably find a slide to help with that. So we've had some correspondence back and forth with the planning department, which was mentioned in the previous presentation. So after looking through the regulations, looking at what's happened in the past, what has come of the email is that between Hogback and North Penrose, so west of the majority of Penrose, we have already secured all of the easements voluntarily. We've provided that list. We've provided what those structure types will look like. Going west of Penrose, we still have work to do there. We have to move forward with the project. We can't just sit here and spin forever. So if we build the Hogback Substation and we build the Penrose Substation and we get that line, which is all part of this permit, according to our conversation back and forth with the department, we'll be able to feed Penrose. This is not the end result of this entire project, but that gets us better reliability in the area sooner. We will continue to work for a route between Penrose. So we have all the way through Pueblo County, which we're in the 1041 process. At our last hearing 2 weeks ago, 2 commissioners said if we have to vote today, we will vote yes. 1 commissioner said that they'd like more time to look at it. So it was continued to the 10th. So on the 10th, we're hoping to have a decision. Not that it matters much, but in Pueblo, we're looking at 1 landowner and using all existing utility easements. So that's a Pueblo discussion, but all the way up through Fort Carson, we're secured. We have a portion in Penrose that we're working on. We're very open to different routes. As soon as we get moving with this project again, we'll be back in touch with any landowners down there, and we will try to find the best way to get through that small section of Penrose, and then we'll be back before the Planning Commission to permit that portion of the line. So did that answer it close to what you were looking for, or?
So at this point, it's going to be powered from Canyon City from the east side?
Correct. So with the Hogback
For this
Substation-
application?
Correct. Yeah. With the Hogback Substation, we can sturdy up the infrastructure around Canyon with that 69 line, pull that power off the existing 115. We can bring power into Penrose so we can, they can only run X number of hours of their water tanks right now, because then you run into fire issues, too low of water. There's a lot of issues in Penrose as well with what we have. So we can fix some problems. And then once we figure out how to get that last 3 miles through, we'll come back, permit that last portion, and that would be the completion of the project.
That's all I have for now.
What happens if you don't get that last 3 miles?
I'm confident that we'll find a way to work with the community and find that last 3 miles. There's a lot of different options out there. So
You don't think we're getting the horse before the cart?
I do not,
The
because
cart before the horse, excuse me.
I do not, and we sit and look at these things, and they're studied. With what's before you today, we have a very useful project that brings a lot of value to your communities. And then that last portion will just be icing on the cake, I should say, I guess. So we're not looking at something today that says, hey, well, let's build all this and it's completely useless, and everybody wasted a whole lot of time and money.
Well, besides the concerns that the folks have raised from out there, I mean, when I went to the site, first thing that came to my mind, where's the wires? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? That's my impression. They're having the same feeling right now.
So what came first, the chicken or the egg? We could route a transmission line, and we could come before you and permit a transmission line, and then come back to look for the substations. And not be able to put the substations where the line is, or vice versa. So what we brought as a package of, here's something that brings value to the community, is step one, and step two will be working our way from that Penrose substation to that Fort Carson.
Trust me when I tell you, I understand your mission. And I know what you're trying to accomplish here. But on the same token, the folks out there are wondering, the same as maybe some of us are, is how do you get there from here? Yeah, and I think that's a big question. In my mind, it's a big question. I mean, you say, well, we're going to do this, and we have plans on doing this, but what happens if something goes awry from those plans? And I think that's a concern, and there's a lot of unknown here that they're looking at, and I think that Black Hills probably needs to do a better job of explaining, showing, illustrating, use all those adjectives I can gather up, what that impact is going to be. And I think that's a real issue that these folks are grappling with right now.
So we have done 2 community outreach meetings, one in Penrose and one in Florence. We've gone over mapping. We've actually have all but a small handful of easements signed in Penrose going to the west, or to the east, I'm sorry. We're not trying to permit that today because we have work to do there. Saying that we're gonna use those parcels that we have is not, it's not secured. So we don't wanna come before you and say, hey, here's where we're gonna go, and then change it. It ties our hands. So we know where we're gonna go between these 2 substations. We know we can bring value. We're not certain exactly where we're going in there. We have a lot of easements in place. So there's some movement that's gonna happen in there, but it's not that we haven't done any work. It's not that we haven't done community outreach or any of that, so.
I can understand and I do appreciate, what you're saying there. I mean, but where are the wires gonna come from?
Say that again? What did you say?
He asked where the wires are gonna go. So that, between Hogback and North Penrose, that's there. I mean, we've put that in this application.
I think I know. I have a little experience. Those folks don't know.
We've met with all of these very nice people and many times.
And they're on board?
There's a few easements that we have not secured in Penrose yet, so we have opportunity to move in Penrose. So I think that,
Folks, he's talking. Okay,
I
keep
think
it
we're
quiet.
getting a little astray from really what this application is today. I understand your concerns. Yes, we do have some work to do in Penrose. That is why it's not part of this application. I think what the real bottom line today is that we have permits. We have an application that meets the guidelines of the county. So, that's what we really need to be talking about, not the what-ifs in the future.
And I'm sure you do. I'm not anti-power. Okay, let's clear the table right there.
Okay.
It's just that here's what happens in my mind. You get the site approved and something goes awry and you have to back up and you have to go someplace else.
Well, you have to move forward, so.
Oh, I understand.
The gentleman here, we won't call out names, we actually had a easement, moving along. We've purchased, I'd say about 5 miles of easement. We ran into a location we just couldn't quite work our way through. We worked with the neighbors. We actually moved the line and gave up the easement. We didn't ask for money back or anything like that, but we had to, if you don't move forward, you will never go forward.
I understand.
I
just want to make sure that message is resonating with these folks.
And this substation site is the best location to deliver power into Penrose. As you saw on the maps earlier today, the other site was it 3 miles to the south? So it's basically on the south side of Penrose along pretty close to 50. This is up on the north, so the way the electrical grid works is this substation will feed mainly all existing infrastructure. We'll have to upgrade some you know, if it's a single phase to a three-phase to be able to bring that power all the way into town. But then they kind of meet in the middle and they divide up the power. And then if something happens, one can pick up the power from the other. It's like a garden hose that sprays so far. Your voltage drop and current is like that. So if you get your two garden hoses straight together and you spray them, you're not doing any good. So this site is the best location to bring that power together. Another point is that we're gonna use about 3 acres of this 20+ acres. So if we wanna talk about preserving the land in the area, we're using a really small portion and then the rest isn't gonna get used. So it's actually a pretty good preservation of land.
Okay. Anything else, Mike?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Larry?
Well, I've got some comments, but we'll hold off on comments until later.
Okay, all right. Gardner?
I'm just listening at this point.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. No, right now. John?
So sure. As I understand it, we've had 2 applications in front of us, one for a Hogback station, one for this North Penrose station. And this is a question, it's basically my understanding, and correct me if I do not understand this, but with the Hogback station and the construction of this station, if approved, where the wires come is from the Hogback station. And that's all we're looking at today. We're not looking at, where wires may come or may not come. We're looking at this. It's Black Hill's business decision that this station is necessary to introduce more reliability into the Penrose area as a standalone facility. Today we are not considering whether the rest of the route, if it's ever connected to Pueblo or anything like that. This is a business decision by Black Hills that if that's never approved, their business decision is that this is still in their economic and in their economic interest and in the citizens' interest in reliable power. And is that correct, that the wires come from the Hogback station?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good clarification.
That was a great presentation of clarification, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
One more quick question on the vacation of the easement. Did you say, I understand the one in the middle of the property. Did you say you're going to vacate the easement to the west also?
The Department of Planning and Zoning has told us to vacate the 25-foot set right-of-way around lots 3 and 4 on the north side and on the west side, but we wouldn't vacate on the east side because that's K Street. It's already being used as a road.
Okay, but on the west side, that would, I'm not that it'll ever happen, but that would be the continuation of J Street to the highway.
But the problem is 115 is a controlled access highway, so you're not going to get across the highway. The access rights, CDOT came along. That's an old Fremont County road. I guess you gave it or they bought it from you all. When CDOT bought it, in order to get federal highway funds, they had to control the access. So Black Hills, if Black Hills wanted to access at the top there, we couldn't. The people on that property before have sold the right to drive from the property onto 115 back to CDOT. So for the same reason, you can't get off of 115 onto that little strip over there on the west side. I mean, it's your county, sir. If you tell me you don't want me to vacate that 25-foot strip, and Mr. Garrett says that's fine, I'm cool.
My question would be to Sean, what about other utilities, if water, sewer, we don't have sewer on that side of town, but
And just to
does that
clarify-
block other utilities from using that easement if you vacate it?
And to clarify on that, our request, our concern was vacating the interior lot line as it spanned across. They can vacate that public right-of-way through the middle and to the west, but it's not a requirement or a large concern at this time. The concern was that vacation of the interior lot line on that. And so part of that process is through the vacation of public right-of-way, they'd have to notify utilities and all that to see which ones have rights to those accesses. And so that would be taken care of through that application
That would be my
process.
concern, the one on the west. The one in the middle of the property, I understand, but the west doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And so we just got that application, we're just in the beginning of looking at that.
Come on back up, Seth.
If it pleases the board, we're happy not to vacate that. We thought it was part of what Sean was requesting.
Well, and apparently it wasn't, and it doesn't make sense to me to vacate the west side
Our
as
apologies.
part of this project.
Yep, our apologies. We thought that was part of the request, so that's why we were doing it. It doesn't affect our project one way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Larry?
And so just so you know, there are no utilities in any of it, but like I said, it's your county, and if you want to keep that little strip, that's great. I'm also glad to forward the deeds that have cut off the access to that from 115. That's the kicker. You can't turn off 115 onto that 25-foot strip.
I understand that.
Yeah, so if you want to keep it as a county road, that's fine. If you've got a great idea for that little triangle.
No, no.
Would you like a little triangle?
Wait, Larry?
Well, back here in this corner, I'm having a somewhat difficulty hearing
Okay.
everything that's being said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm not quite sure if I understand exactly where we're gonna go with this, with what you're proposing. I'm confused at this point as to exactly what. I guess I'm going to ask this question.
Yes, sir.
This proposal you have, is this the only thing you've actually have come up with? Is it the only plan you have?
For this site, we looked at a lot of sites. The reason we selected this, and I've given my card to Rachel? Janet, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you through the mask, Janet, I apologize. And I'm hoping that we correspond because I can share with her more images and stuff. We looked at a lot of sites. The nice thing about this site is visibility from 115 really is very poor, meaning you can't see the darn thing. You can see the tippy tops, but you can also see the WAPA lines, you can see all this other stuff. You can see the tops, but visibility from K Street, and we will try to preserve that vegetation I showed you in that photo sim. So long answer, short question, this is the best site we've been able to come up with, and that's why we bought it.
And Larry, the other thing I think you're getting at is that we're really not considering the transmission lines coming out of Pueblo today. That's not part of what we're dealing with here, as John pointed out earlier. Okay, we have to deal with just what's in front of us in the application, okay? I certainly hear the concerns of the folks out there, and I know what they're worried about. But I have to look just at the application in front of us right now today, and that's I'm not done yet. Okay, well, I'll let someone else. Go ahead, Larry. You had some comments.
Well, the only couple of things I'd like to comment on. Number one, I agree with Mike to an extent. When I first started looking at this, I think we're putting the cart before the horse, actually, when I saw this thing. When I find out that we're possibly could backfeed from the Hogback to Penrose.
That is how the site will be
I
powered.
understand that, and that's fine. It kind of clarifies me as far as Hogback is concerned. I think the concern that I've got with this arrangement here in Penrose is the location of it. I'm sorry, it's unlike Hogback, which is really kind of hidden compared to what this is going to be. You're right on the corner. No matter what you say, you're right there. I live in Penrose. I know where it is. I travel that route all the time. So to say that, that the visibility is not a problem, well, it is, as far as I'm concerned. We do need some additional power in Penrose. I mean, that's definite, as he pointed out. I mean, if that existing area goes down, I mean, there's no power in Penrose at all, at least now. With a substation in Penrose, it can be backfed, which is fine. I just don't like the location of it. And I'm sorry, you can't tell me there can't be a better location where it isn't more visible, or I should say less visible than what it is right there. That's what I disagree with. That's the
Would,
only comment I-
the thing, and I would propose, and I don't know if this will float with Sean, so I'm looking back at him, but, you know, a site visit. We'd be glad to host a site visit. Anybody there is
It
welcome
doesn't
to drive
matter.
on.
I know where the site is,
Okay.
ma'am.
I think
It
we've
just-
all driven out there, we've looked at the site.
Oh, good, good.
That's-
And you-
live
and you
here.
went-
Everyone's visited the site,
Oh, good, good.
so that's not the problem. The problem is the location, as far as I personally am concerned. So for me to vote for this thing, it's not gonna happen, I'll tell you that right now.
Where would you
That's
think
it.
it would go better?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any sites in mind do you think
No,
would
I
be
don't
better?
have any sites, that's your job, it's not my job. You know, we're just here to approve or disapprove a
I
location as far as I'm
understand,
concerned.
but you had a strong opinion about the site, and I thought maybe you had an alternative.
No,
For me, and I've looked at the elevations, the fact that the bulk of the substation is under 15 feet is very persuasive. There are hills along 115, and when you drive home tonight, if you don't mind, drive a little further all the way up to K Street and then turn down K Street. 115 is good. K is not as good, but there are hills where you see the vegetation on the east side, where you see the vegetation in those two spots on the north side and all along 115, those are going to remain, and that blocks the view.
That's fine.
Okay.
It just doesn't matter.
I'm going to follow
Okay,
back
thank
on
you.
Mr. Hamrick's, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, Mike.
Recommendation earlier. We're here for a specific item.
Yeah.
You know, not the aesthetics per se.
Well, the aesthetics are, the visual impact is there.
It is-
It
it
belongs.
is
It belongs.
It's important to these folks. But
Okay.
we do have an item before us that does not address.
Okay, all right. John, go ahead again.
Yes, and one other point I'd like to make, or housekeeping perhaps, is that this application does suffer from a defect that I pointed out on the previous application. It says no hazardous materials, but if you have wet transformers, you will have hazardous materials. So that if there's a motion made to approve this, that it should note that hazardous substances needs to be dealt with in the application.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
What other questions do you have for me? Vice Chair Pullman? Do you have any other questions for me? Sorry, I keep moving off the mic.
Not at the moment.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone, ma'am, you didn't sign a slip for me.
Well,
I'm sorry? You did? My name is Karen I'm sorry, ma'am. Oh, I thought everybody was taking, I'm going to let you come up there. Go ahead and sit down. I apologize for that. I thought I had taken care of it.
There's a lot going on. Thank you.
My name is Karen Ullman, and I live in Penrose, and I've been very, very involved in this entire project from day one, from the time the knock on my door came in 2017 in December. I think the issue that we've all been talking about, but I want to have it very, very clarified. We are not opposed to having a substation in Penrose. We are opposed to where it is located. Because we feel very, very strongly that that is not going to be beneficial the way it looks. You know, you can talk about, well, it's maybe not tall, or it's too tall, or all these, but the whole idea of having that at that particular point, when you come down on that hill from El Paso and you come down that hill, that's the gateway to the Arkansas Valley. And that is going to be, in our opinion, not the place for this substation. I'm sure that Black Hills has looked at other substations, and maybe from their point of view, this is the most logical, economical place to put it. But as far as the residents of the community, it is not. We love our community. We love the view coming into the Arkansas Valley. It destroys properties like Miss Melchard's property, who lives on K Street, right across from where this supposed substation is going to go. So as a citizen of Penrose, I'm asking you to please understand the fact that we are not opposed to a substation. We understand the importance from having the Hogback and a substation in Penrose connected. What we are totally opposed to is the location. There has to be another site that'll work. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, talk to me. Anybody have anything more to say? This is a tricky one, I have to admit. I understand the need for power there, and I understand this is a business decision, but I also understand that the community and their concern about the location. Sir, we're done with public comment, I'm sorry. Okay, John, do you have anything more?
No, I don't. Well, perhaps one thing. So we've heard public input about visual impacts of the site. And so my question is for Sean, or perhaps Brenda, based on your finding that minimal requirements have been met, do we have a basis to deny this application because of visual impacts?
That's always an option. That would be covered under the master plan.
Under the master plan, so, thank you.
And I think that's covered under the SRU requirement sheets too, but, okay.
SRUs are discretionary decisions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
Just a comment, I don't really understand what everybody's saying here in this day and age. Nobody wants anything in their backyard.
Use your speaker if you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear that first comment? Okay.
Got a no back here.
Now I lost my thought. I'm afraid if we go to another site, we're gonna have the same problem next time. Nothing against you folks, but I don't think anybody's gonna want this. I'm very conflicted on it. I'm not even sure yet how I would vote, so, we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Michael, you have anything else?
No, I just, for future reference, wish Black Hills would have done a little better job with the community beforehand, before it got to us and on to the Board of County Commissioners, just for future point.
Okay. I'm open to a motion. Mark, you have anything else before?
I have a question about the 800 signatures. Was that in reference to this project, or was that in reference to the 115-volt line that goes west?
Gentlemen, in regards to the 800 signatures, it actually does address the project, because at the time that was secured, this substation was listed as part of that entire project. It was never identified to us as a separate entity that would be applied by itself. So in our minds, that substation was part of the entire line process and was not identified as parcels going from it to Hogback or from Pueblo County to, it's been proposed to us all along as one entire project. And so our concern was in putting this, not only for visual effects, all of the things we've talked about, once this substation is approved, it pretty much locks us in as to where those lines are gonna go. Because Black Hills has already told us in community meetings, there is no negotiation. The line is set. So by putting this substation there, you have locked each and every one of us into a line in our backyard.
Okay, thank you. I'm open to a motion. I have no idea which way this is going to go, I can tell you. Larry, you can make a motion either direction. Anybody willing to make a motion?
Sure. I will make a motion. Chairman and Commissioners, I move that we approve SRU 20-006 Black Hills Energy North Penrose Station with the contingencies of site plan revisions, approval of an application for a vacation of interior lot lines, and the revision of the application to include hazardous substances. And that we approve the waiver request for landscaping of the parking area and hard surfacing of the parking area.
Okay, very good. I think you've got it all. Is there a second to that? I'll second that to move it along. Okay. Any further discussion or comments from the Planning Commission? No? John?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Mark?
Nay.
This is tough. I'm going to say aye, but I do it with reservations, and I really feel for the folks out there. But I'm looking at the application in front of me that I think I have to vote yes on this. But I certainly, it's a hard one for me. Mike?
Yes.
I vote no, and the reason I vote no, of course, is I believe with my whole heart that we do need a substation there, but not at that particular location. Black Hills cannot tell me that there isn't somewhere else that thing cannot be placed. So I vote no.
Gardner?
Based on the application as it is, I will vote aye.
Okay. I'm sorry, Brenda, did you say something? Yeah, motion carries. Okay. Thank you, folks. All right, anything else? Any other business before us, gentlemen?